I'm sure all of you downloaded these two sites. Yeah, just keep them to one side and we'll use them later. Okay, so today's topic is how to use diversity to build a high-performing brand for your startup. So how many of you have been in existence for more than 2 years? How many have been in existence for 1 year as a startup? Or how many of you, okay, how many of you are thinking of starting up? And the rest of you are? Sorry? Less than 1 year. Great, okay. So before we start on the serious side, I'm going to play you something fun. I'm going to need the sound for the video. Is that okay? Yeah? And I want you to listen, look, and see what correlation this has to diversity. No prize for guessing, but let's have a look at the video. So what is diversity? So what was that video all about? What did you learn from that video with regards to diversity? Brilliant word, connecting. How did one guy in Korea manage to start this huge revolution of Gangnam-ming, right? Across the US, across Asia, everybody was doing the horsey, right? So if you remember one thing, just remember the word connect. Because if you cannot connect, you cannot be a diverse company or a diverse brand. So this is the serious stuff about what diversity is. And this is video by two AT&T and a Coca-Cola representative talking about diversity. And after this, we'll go to even more serious stuff.
What does diversity mean to you?
So at AT&T, diversity encompasses all of the traditional aspects of diversity: race, gender, ethnicity, and sexual orientation. But for us, it goes way, way beyond that. Diversity is about ensuring that every single person comes to work every day and feels free to bring their full self to work. And it's not just welcoming, but it's really embracing and harnessing the diversity of thought, diversity of background, diversity of experience, diversity in education, not just the traditional aspects of diversity.
Diversity is obviously critical in that it's about difference. And it's about having different perspectives, different backgrounds, different experiences. That's huge.
Why is diversity a core business strategy for your company?
We know that a diverse and inclusive environment is critical to engaging our employees. It's critical to attracting and retaining the workforce of the future, and it's critical to meeting the needs of our customers.
The emerging workforce is what? The demographic of the United States, which again has an inexorable change to it. And so if you're going to be focused in on making sure you can bring talent into your organization and being relevant to that talent so that talent wants to work at the Coca-Cola Company, you have to focus in on that.
What are the biggest challenges in attracting a diverse workforce?
The fact that we do not have enough students who are entering and graduating with STEM degrees, science, technology, engineering, and math. The statistics today in this country, the education statistics, the high school dropout rate, and the lack of students being attracted to STEM degrees in college means that the current trends cannot support the hiring pipeline that companies like AT&T need in the future.
You have to really understand what's going on, in every community in which we operate, in every city that we operate in, and be able to speak to the diversity of perspectives that exist out there, the diversity of the consumer population, the diversity of the labor market, and you have to be able to speak in relevant ways.
So, diversity is a lot of things. It's not just diversity of ethnicity and race. That's the easiest diversity that you can see. But there are other things about diversity, right? In the budget that was announced for the Malaysians and the people working in Malaysia, the Prime Minister announced a diversity statement to say that he wants more women as board members of public listed companies. So in America, and how many of you have read Lean In? Sheryl Sandberg's Lean In. Sheryl Sandberg, do you know who Sheryl Sandberg is? Mark Zuckerberg's number 2, the right-hand woman. She says that, women in the workforce are crucial to profitability. It's been shown that women contribute a different viewpoint, and that helps build great brands. So diversity makes brands relevant. Homogeneous societies that consist of only one religion, one race, one creed, is very limiting. Why? The most shallow reason I can give is you can't go shopping on Christmas Day. Right? That's the most shallow. I still remember growing up in Malaysia, Chinese New Year, no shopping. Right? Studying in Australia, Christmas Day, forget it. You can't do anything shallow. You have to bond with your family. Right? So diversity has made it available for you to do anything 24/7, because if someone's not a Christian, it's okay. The Muslims can go in and work during Christmas Day, and then likewise you can swap. So that's another great thing about diversity. Then there's diversity of thought, diversity of experience, diversity of just being from another country. So why is it so important to be relevant? Right? You need to be relevant, otherwise you're not in the game. So what do you sell? What business are you in?
More in IT products.
IT products? And who do you sell to?
Corporates.
Corporates? Okay. So if what he sold was not relevant, he'll be out of business. True? Right? So how do you sell something to a B2B platform as well as a B2C? Business to business versus a business to consumer, customers. You need to first engage, and then you need to resonate. What does these two words mean? Now, in every brand, you need these three things: rational, functional, and emotional connection. At the end of the day, if you're just here on the rational and functional, you're not going to make it. You're not going to make it beyond 3-5 years, right? If you're here, emotional, and I'm not just talking about being emotionally there for your customers, it's also emotionally there for your employees. We now have these two things. We call a brand and an employer brand. So what Coca-Cola was talking about just now was that if you're not a great pull brand, you can't attract the right talent. And if you can't attract the right talent, you can't give the great service. And what is needed to attract the talent now? Diversity is one of them. We talk about this thing called Y and UX. Y means, what's your why? Why do you exist as a company? Do you know why? What's the name of your company, ma'am?
We are code army.
Godamin.
Code army.
Code Army, right? Why do you exist? What's your raison d'etre?
Because we want to turn an idea into startup.
Okay, so her reason to exist is we want to turn an idea into a startup. That is a functional why. Okay? Mercedes, what is their why? Their why is they make great pieces of art. What's that got to do with cars? Because people don't shell out that extra money for a car. They are shelling out that extra money for art. So what is the why? Uniqlo, their why is in technology, right? Now, that seems very rational and functional, but the emotional payoff is, if I can make a loom that can create a thread that can make something really comfortable and yet fashionable and sell it to you at a very affordable price, you get to be really trendy and stylish for less. That's the IKEA why as well. We make you feel esteem. We make you feel like you're stylish. That's the why. As a brand and as an employer brand, diversity makes up some of your why. Why do you exist? Right? You may choose to have a homogeneous workforce, but is that going to help you create the why that makes great brands? Once you have a why, you have the user experience. 2 levels of user experience. Someone you sell to, your customer, and the worker experience. As I come into the door, I need to experience something that's much more than just ho-hum 9 to 5. And in America, they're saying diversity is it. Now in Malaysia, we know what diversity is. We've been living diversely for all our lives, right? So please understand that what you see, you may think, what's the big deal? But it's now a big deal for a lot of corporates because they've woken up to realize we've been doing it, kind of like on a gut feel, but now we really need to start writing our diversity statements. We really need to actually say what is it that we want to do vis-a-vis diversity. And especially if you're a startup, you're small, how can you make sure it's in your DNA so that when you grow big, you're like a Mind Valley, right? So some of you have heard the speaker from Mind Valley. So what do you do with this user experience and your why? Now, these are the 5 P's that I talk about. Publicity, place, process, people, and products and services, right? Now, A, can you see that diversity helps, especially publicity? 20 years ago when I started out in advertising, it was primary target market and primary goal. 20 years later, it is, I have 3 groups, right? And I have multiple psychographics, and I have to target each one at different levels with different messages. So your market is diverse, whether you like it or not. And how do you understand a diverse market? You need to have people working for you that understands diversity. In America, the Hispanic market is huge, and people are starting to put in Hispanic marketing officers, chief Hispanic marketing officers. In Malaysia, we all know that if you're a PLC, you have to have a corporate ad that has 3 races, right? And you have to book in 3 newspapers: English, Chinese, and Indian. We are the only unique country that constantly has to think about inclusion. That's another word you need to think about. Inclusion. So how your why is what you need to engage people so that the user experience becomes memorable. When user experience becomes memorable, you don't have to have a lot of money to advertise. How many of you, the biggest worry is, I don't have money to reach my customers? Yeah, that's one. So all of you have money. You've got funders, right? Great thing. Okay. So all my customers come and tell me, I don't have money lah. You know, I only got like 200,000, 50,000, 20,000. And I say, you know that 80% of word of mouth for great brands, you know where they come from? Their employees. If you're treating your employees like just another functional cog in the wheel, chances are they're not going to be talking about you. They're not going to be selling for you. I went in for a huge job, a huge insurance company, 3,000 overstaff, and I said to them, how many of your employees buy your products and sell your products on to their family members? And it was like 20%. So what does that tell me about that organization? It's not a great brand. It can advertise that it's a great brand, but it really is not a great brand in a holistic form. So why is engagement so important? Okay. Engage means great brand, not engage means mediocre brand. And in Malaysia, we have this trap called the mediocre trap. We tend to celebrate successes early, and then we forget about maintenance and sustainability. All right. So let's look at this. High employee engagement increases income by 19%. Low employee engagement decreases your operating income, right? So there you have it. You can decide what kind of company you're creating for your employees. And how does diversity fit into this? So let's look at this. Does anybody know who Ecliph is? Ecliph is a subsidiary of Bank Negara. It is a learning center and it's a governance center. And it created this Asian Leadership Index, which it published April of this year. In Malaysia, 65% will leave their workplace within a year. 65. So if you have 2 employees, 1 of them will go. If you have 5 employees, 3 of them may go. Right. And that's fine because that's a natural progression, but this is the cost of disengagement. If you look at this, okay, let's look here. What does it say? It says disengaged employees only return 60% of your salary. So if you're paying someone 5,000 ringgit, you're only getting how much? About 4,000 something of what they're worth. But if you engage them, you get 120%. So a lot of people start up and they go into functional. Oh, I need to just get the furniture, I need to get the space, I need to get the thing out, I need customers. And then they forget about the brand, building a brand and building a certain statement, whether it's diversity statement, into their values or their brand that attracts and engages your employees. So let's look at, we're going to be working on a diversity statement later. Have a look at what your employees in the future are looking for. Look at that. The ability to communicate. I need to feel that I am empowered. I need to make sure that I can develop myself and others. And I need my bosses to be emotionally aware. Wow, that's a huge order, man. What happened to just show up at work and do your thing? And if I give you a bonus at the end of the year, I expect you to be happy about it. So it's business unusual. Look at all the emotional thoughts and feelings that are coming up. Emotionally aware, empowering, develops others. I want a boss who can do this. Now, nobody here can fill all of them. We're not perfect. So what are you doing to make sure you have diversity in you to be able to get here? So it's great to be able to write this great diversity statement, and then you say, well, I don't have to change, I'm perfect. Right? Well, not quite. So what do you need to do to engage? And we call it the power of culture. How do you research, recruit, retain, and retire in a way that gets people still loyal and still rah-rahing about you? There are companies out there who actually have alumni parties, right, to engage old employees. So let's look at this. How do we create culture? And what diversity is it is a sparking of culture. It is your statement that you're going to put into your culture. And it's going to drive this culture, whether it's going to be a culture that builds great brands or a culture that builds mediocre brands. Your choice. So what is the culture influenced by? Number one, what leader attends to, measures, rewards, and controls? Critical reaction to critical incidences, role modeling and coaching, criteria for recruitment, and all of this, right? Some people don't understand the importance of formal statement, charter, creeds, and stories. Stories are amazing, right? I'll tell you one story that immediately sold this company as a diverse and caring company. There was this guy, his name is Phil Feebick. He ran this advertising agency in the 80s and the 90s called Leo Burnett. Have you all heard of Leo Burnett? It's one of the biggest international agencies in the world. And he was involved in a huge accident, right? So what happened was his driver saved his life. And when his driver was being admitted to hospital, Phil, on his stretcher, said, I don't care what you do, you put that guy next to me. I want him in the room next to me. Right? Now that's a diversity action. Why? Because I understand, because in the 80s, the driver would have been put into a public ward. Yeah? In a ward that sleeps 6. And he would have been just put at his place. Right? Nobody valued that his skill of driving was of any worth. If you practice diversity, everyone is valued. There's no such thing as just because you're a driver, I treat you less than what you should be treated. That's diversity at its very purity. Now, in MIT, Sloan School, they did a research and they said that 80 to 90% of your organizational culture comes from the top 3. What you attend to, measure, reward, and control, your reaction to critical incidences, and your ability to role model and coach. How many of you have role models and coaches? Great. Who's your role model? Yeah. You have a lot. Top 1 that comes to mind. Lee Kuan Yew. So he loves Lee Kuan Yew. Who's a coach that you can go and speak to when you're having a problem? A professor in college. Great. As leaders, what really stops leaders is that you have no one to talk to and it's a very lonely world out there. Find a coach. Magic is offering coaches and mentors, right? Find one that can help you bring out the best in you. You're going to spend a lot of energy trying to bring out the best in everybody else, but what about yourself? Right? There's a Chinese saying, fish rots from the head. And that is very true of organizations. They rot from the head. Okay, so if you're not looking after yourself, if you think, oh yeah, it's very good to put values, beautifully done up, I've paid $5,000 for a designer to do up this value statement, I have a diversity statement, I have ethics and governance, but when it comes to me, I don't need it. That's when the rot starts. I have a lot of potential clients and clients who come to me and say, I want to do branding. And I say, well, if you hire me, it's going to hurt. Not the wallet, but in terms of being courageous and brave enough to carry out the changes that's needed. Oh, yes, I can do it. And then 6 months down the line, they really understand, oh my God, I need to be brave. I need to be brave enough to fire someone if they're not meeting the values. I need to be brave enough to tell someone that he's not good enough or she's not good enough. Conflict management. Yeah. So diversity is all about walking the talk. So we talked about inclusion. You can't have a diverse brand if you're not inclusive. Right? What's the difference? One is many people thinking many different things with different experiences, and one is I accept you as you are. And I celebrate your diversity. And I include you. Yeah? I reward you and I celebrate you. So diversity and inclusion creates a culture that engages your employees and customers. So this is what you want to see. You want to create an organization with one set of values, to create your why. Why do you exist? Why do you exist on an emotional level that connects? And then one culture and one brand. And how does this brand talk is in one voice to all of your touch points or your stakeholders, depending on what you want to call them. But this is the reality that I face, and I'm sure a lot of you who have worked at other places will face. This is the reality. You have one organization and you have 4 brands and 2 cultures. And depending on whether you're a customer or a government body or a partner, you meet different parts of the brand which have nothing to do with the other side of the brand. It's brand schizophrenia. And brand schizophrenia is very prevalent in a lot of Malaysian brands. Right? I say I care, but hey, I'm sorry, if you have to stay 6 weekends in a row to do this project, and I'm looking for people, seriously, I'm looking for people, but no one's good enough, so tough luck. You just have to suck it up and work 8 weekends without a break. So you've worked 8 weeks without a break. Right? So if you say, you're caring and you like diversity, but you only hire one race, what does that say? You're not walking the talk. Right? So, what do you do with a brand? Now, when you do branding, it's not just a statement. If you say your brand DNA is about diversity, right? So I want diversity of thought. Diversity of thought means that you encourage conflict. Malaysians don't like conflict. They're like, oh, I don't agree, but never mind, I just nod and smile. And then I Facebook, I'm so irritated, stupid man, right? Face palm moment. Why doesn't he get it? That's what Malaysians generally like to do, right? But if you say you want diversity of thought is one thing, right? As a boss, you need to tell your people, it's okay, I can be wrong. And where do you put that statement? Do you put that statement on the wall? Or do you put it under performance management, training and development, and how you select and deploy? Right? When you talk about training and development, are you sending people for conflict management, crisis management? Are you training people on how to speak their minds? How to then bring out the best in themselves? Are you giving people opportunities to do hobbies that have got nothing to do with work? Google does that, right? So what is your diversity statement? What does it entail? And how are you going to walk the talk when it comes to these 4? Because if you're not walking the talk, basically, nobody's going to speak. I have the one clinker of this client, right, who fired me, and I'm very happy to say I was fired from this client, was that his first statement when I met him was, I empower my people, but I don't know why they don't take it up. I empower them. I let them make decisions. Why don't they make decisions? Why do you think? Anybody has it a guess? Yeah. Or if they say something, this person will say, no, I don't agree with you. Right? Instead of saying, no, I don't agree with you, what you need to do is say, you know what? Why don't you go and research it? Grab a team, prove it to me why this works. Right? And what happens is you may find in your research, it may not work. Or it will work, but whatever it is, prove it to the CEO. Right? So be careful of the language, and you have to be very, very diverse in the way you manage your language. Understand people are emotional beings. It doesn't, people always say to me, how do I sell to B2B rather than B2C? Because I don't advertise to B2B. Well, they're all humans. They all have needs to be validated. That's what you do. You connect on the human scale. Any questions so far? We're going to go into part 2, which is case studies. I'm going to be showing you 3 case studies of how people have integrated diversity into their DNA and then into their culture. Right? All 3 of them not necessarily will call it diversity. Some will call it CSR. Some will just call it our great culture. But actually it is diversity in action. So sometimes you don't have to say, to have a diversity statement to be diverse, right? But I'm just teaching you some of the ropes. So the first case study is this one, Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola is in the top 50 most diverse companies to work for, right? And this is their secret diversity formula. I like the play and the consistency, you know, the secret Coca-Cola formula, the secret diversity formula. So here it is, inclusion, fairness, and diversity. Top 3 things that make Coca-Cola a great place to work, right? So A, it's about valuing differences. So when I say differences, I say how do you differentiate as a brand? How do you differentiate internally? This is how Coke does it. Inclusion is providing access and giving employees the opportunity to participate and having their voices heard. Alright? So it brings back to the story I just told you just now. And fairness is about making equitable decisions. So the thing about fairness is, how do you be fair? You ask yourself this question. Am I being fair or am I being nice? Now these are the 2 devil and angels. Am I being fair or am I being nice? By being nice, is it fair? Will this decision be fair to others? And if I'm being fair, is it okay if I'm not seen as nice? And that's a decision that many leaders go through during conflict, handling conflict moments. Right? So A, Ritz-Carlton. Chambermaid comes up and reports sexual harassment. They did an investigation. Now, if they were nice, they would just pay off the chambermaid. But Ritz-Carlton talks about ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen. What does that mean? I value you. I see you as a ladies and gentlemen. You are somewhere up there, and you are serving people up there as well. So what did they do? They told the gentleman that he was no longer welcomed in this establishment, and they have booked and paid for an alternative venue, and he would be limousined out walking the talk. Coca-Cola. So this is the framework of diversity. Now I'm not asking you to be so specific because you're a small company, but these are some ideas of what to say. How did you create this company that will become a great brand? They say about commitment, about building culture, building communities, CSR, right? Do you know that people will pay more if they know that their money is going to fund something else that is, charitable? Toms, Yeah, buy one shoe, we'll donate another shoe. Right? A lot of brands now, and people now, your customers are very much more community savvy. Accelerate consumption within the marketplace and drive communication. A lot of people at how many of you have more than 5 people in your company? Yeah, okay. So when you accelerate, be careful of the 5 to 15 trap. At 5, communicating is face to face. At 15, it becomes Twitter, and you lose that contact. When you lose that contact, culture starts to erode. So be very mindful. The bigger you are, the more time you need to spend to create and maintain your culture. Right? So let's look at how they actually work it out internally. Do you remember that DNA into a culture, that funnel, yeah, performance management? Here, they talk about ability, aspiration, and engagement. Competencies, do you know what competencies with regards to performance management? One is technical competency. Are you technically adapt to do this job? Right? 2, behavioral competency. How do you behave, and is the behavior a match with the company's culture and values? So when they say these things, ability, yeah, are you a person that learns and loves to learn? Or are you a person that just stays, I just do this is all I know and I don't want to learn? And then you have to decide whether you need that person in your company, whether it's a match. Right? Aspiration. Is this person motivated? And is this person engaging? Does he engage himself as well as others? So these are the 3 things that they require of all Coca-Cola employees. Right? And so I'll give you an example. So let's just say, sir, what is your name? Faris? Faris, you have a company, right? And let's just say, Faris, you saw someone, right? And he was basically working alone in a team of 10. You've given them jobs, and 5 people are working, 5 people all in teams, and you see, yeah, let's just say Jonas working on his own. And your company has a statement where it says, engaging self and others is very important. So you go to Jonas and you say, Jonas, how come you're working on your own? Right? What's the problem here? Now, when you start saying that, you are coaching. Right? So, and if Jonas, after coaching, still likes to work on his own, that's when you have to decide, are you going to be nice or are you going to be fair? Because if you allow Jonas to keep working on his own, that's going to make a mockery out of this value. So what was the first rule? How a leader reacts and engages. That's going to make a mockery of that, and that will have a trickle-down effect, and nobody will believe what you say. And they will start coming in and they'll start getting disengaged. So that is coaching and mentoring. So here's another strategic framework. Yeah, how do I grow from the inside? I've just spoken to you about what's inside the company, behavioral competencies. How do you then make sure that it flows externally? So how do you flow it to the marketplace? How do you flow it to the communities? And I like what they do here. They also flow it to their suppliers. How many of you even think about your suppliers? Other than this faceless generic person that supplies you office equipment or supplies you with some sort of thing that helps you do your business. So Coca-Cola has supplier programs. And what it talks about is we value you. Inclusiveness, inclusion. You can't say you're diverse if you're not inclusive. So let's look at Coca-Cola in a brand valuation. Interbrand does this brand valuation. Interbrand is an international branding consultancy, and together with Fortune magazine, publishes this every year. And for the first time in 12 years, Coca-Cola has now dropped to 3rd place. Right? Now that's a huge achievement. No other brand has stayed at number 1 great brand for as long as Coca-Cola has. And you know why it's so successful? I mean, you look at Apple and you look at Google, right? Startups always create very fast growth. Coca-Cola started in the 1930s. I'll show you a video. And this video will show you why Coca-Cola is one of the leaders in diversity and inclusion.
I'd like to buy the world a home and furnish it with love. Grow apple trees and honey bees and snow white turtle doves. I'd like to teach the world to sing. Sing with me. Perfect harmony. Perfect harmony. I'd like to buy the world a Coke and keep it company. That's the real thing. I'd like to teach the world to sing. In perfect harmony. And I'd like to buy the world a Coke and keep it company. It's the real thing. What the world wants today. It's the real thing. What the world wants today.
In the 1970s, they were the first international company to have people of different races in their advertising. Right? So this is what I mean by you are now in the best place to create a brand DNA that actually talks about diversity and inclusion. And once you have it, 30 years on, I hope you all be successful. And then you can make this sort of ad that is consistent with your DNA. Starbucks, why did Starbucks fail? Because Howard Schultz says, we forgot who we were. We forgot what our brand DNA was. And this is Coca-Cola staying true 50 years on, 70, 80, 90, 0. Yeah, sorry, I can't count. 50 years on to their brand of diversity and inclusion.
So beautiful for spacious skies.
Por tus olas de grano sambar, yo piscina sakote. Sa ibabaw ng mga prutas.
America, America, God shed His grace on thee. और वही चरे के साथ ताज तेरा चा, de la mer brilla.
Berat tu verrière tirotard.
From sea to shining sea.
If you look up Facebook, you can see the making of, and actually this video addresses the multiculturalism of America, and it also shows a gay couple. So there's the LBGT part here. I know sometimes in Malaysia we deny that LBGT exists, but it does exist. And so you need to also make that hard choice to say, are you going to mention it, or are you just going to keep it in one side that, oh yeah, it exists, but we don't really acknowledge it. I think Malaysians, we're much more inclusive, and I think LBGT has been accepted in many forms since I was very young. So if you understand who you are and you write that diversity statement, you will know what to do. This created so much flack for Coca-Cola. They were condemned. They were, basically said, I'm going to stop drinking Coca-Cola. But they said, no, this is who our brand is. So courage is very important. How many of you are in B2B businesses? Right? B2B business is very important. SaaS, do you know what SaaS does? SaaS does analytics. They are one of the top performing companies in the United States and number 1 or number 2 consistently as the best place to work for. Look at this. Number 3 amongst IT companies in Germany, Fortune's list of best companies to work for, and so on. Okay, so let's look at the world's best multinational workplace. Look at these awards, multinational workplace, right? If you look at this is the headquarters. What is amazing is that 13,732 employees. So 13,000 employees, and the turnover is 4%. Remember this, the Eclipse thing that I showed you? 64% is going to leave. They only have 4%. And do you know the difference between 4% and 30%, which is the norm in the SaaS industry, is 50 million. Just by reducing your turnover is 50 million. If you don't believe me, it's in this next video.
If there is a heaven on earth on the job, it is here. A design for living and working the good life. It all started when SAS started 26 years ago with free M&Ms every Wednesday. Those M&Ms grew into a collection of perks so vast that even longtime employees like Mark Britt are slightly astonished.
Obviously, when you talk to people who've worked in other places, it's really hard for us to complain. And we catch ourselves sometimes complaining, and then we go, I can't believe I said that.
To atone for the M&Ms, SAS provides a 50,000 square foot state-of-the-art fitness center where the software programmers and assorted techies can burn fat, pump iron, and shoot pool even during working hours. The author of all this pampering is Jim Goodnight, a lanky, laconic billionaire, the co-founder and CEO of SAS.
You understand how people will be amazed, shocked by the way you treat your people.
Well, what's wrong with treating your people good?
Well, in business, which is considered a cutthroat profession by an awful lot of people, it is unusual.
Well, all I can say, it has worked for us.
Indeed it has. SAS has never had a losing year and never laid off a single employee. Last year, they sold $1 billion worth of their analytical software to America's biggest corporations. It's sophisticated stuff that helps everyone from Victoria's Secret to the U.S. military work more efficiently by turning raw data into useful information.
They make the customers happy. You make the customers happy, they make me happy.
This simple approach has made Jim Goodnight the wealthiest man in North Carolina. As the founder of a privately held company, he answers to no one. No shareholders, no board of directors, no clutch of Wall Street analysts.
There's no trust anymore in public companies. I think it's an excellent time to be private.
But do you think any other company, a public company, could take your model and make it work?
You have to have the commitment of the CEO to stick with it. You can't just have a weak quarter and then all of a sudden start bailing out and cutting things. I am basically my own board, so I don't have to worry about pressure from the board or being fired if I don't improve earnings. What's going on right now in corporate America, I don't want to be labeled as a public CEO. I want people to know I don't have to cheat and lie and all that stuff.
His style of management flies in the face of a culture of corporate greed. While benefits are shrinking at most corporations, Goodnight offers the kind of perks that working parents dream of. 850 SAS kids spend their days at one of 4 SAS Montessori daycare programs. The cost is about a third of what it would cost in the real world. But in the real world, daycare is not right next door.
Can I go with Katie?
No, we're gonna go have some lunch.
A little redundant.
Having the children here, it helps ease the stress of juggling everything.
Including medical bills. Beverly Dudley, along with her husband and daughters, are looked after by the SAS medical staff, including doctors, nurses, and physical therapists. Absolutely free.
Wonderful.
When a specialist is required, SAS picks up 80% of the tab.
A parent, is it as altruistic as it looks?
No, we're not altruistic by any stretch of the imagination. This is a for-profit business, and we do all these things because it makes good business sense.
That's not the only saving. The SaaS culture keeps employees content and keeps them from leaving. On average, software companies turn over more than 20% of their employees each year. At SaaS, it's around 3%. And according to Stanford University business professor Jeffrey Pfeffer, that 17% difference saves SaaS millions in recruiting and training costs.
You're talking 60, 70, 80 million dollars a year conservatively.
Savings.
Yes.
By being a nice guy.
By reducing your turnover.
Goodnight's unconventional approach has so impressed Pfeffer that he teaches the SaaS model at his executive seminar at Stanford.
Why is this so hard to copy? 26 years of double-digit growth? 3% employee turnover even in the height of the dot-com craze?
If he's so smart and they're so successful, why have we not seen kind of a mass movement of more considerate global corporations?
In order to be exceptional and earn extraordinary returns, you have to dare to be different. And so everybody says, yes, I want to be different, but I don't want to be that different.
So everybody says, I want to be different, but I don't want to be that different. SaaS doesn't pay the highest salary, right? And for 33, well, to 38 straight years, 2.9 billion in 2013 never made a loss. Now, if you see all the perks, they just didn't get to the perks immediately. They started with M&Ms. Remember? That's all they did as a company bound, as a company bonding thing was M&Ms, just to appreciate your staff. I have employees of my clients coming up to me and saying, my boss, he's changing. He's saying to me, good job. And he never used to do that. My God, did they ask for a raise? No, it was about acknowledgement. It was about, wow, my boss is giving me a free day off because I did so well in that last project. People only ask for a lot of money if the rest are not taken care of. If the connection, if the belonging is not there, or they've just had 3 children or 4 children. Then money, unfortunately kicks in. But normally, if you talk here, people are not going to start asking about money all the time. This is what he says. 95% of my chief assets drive out the door every night, and it's my job to get them back. How many of you spend that much time on your employees? How many of you think, I'm the only one that can do this? If I don't do this, the company's going to go bust. How many of you say, oh, none of them can do what I do? If you believe that, that will be your reality. And you will never be able to scale. And scalability, this is what Dash told me a long time ago, does anybody know who Dash is? Global entrepreneur? No? Okay, he's quite famous. Scalability is what you need to be a great brand. You can't scale on one. Right? So B2B doesn't matter. It's about connecting with human beings. Zappos. Has anybody ever bought a shoe from Zappos? Yeah, there are some non-Malaysians here. How was that experience? Pretty good? Yeah. Oh, it didn't fit and it was fine, right? They accepted it. If we get the culture right, then everything, including customer service, will fall into place. Zappos, when you ask them what is their why, it's not about selling shoes. It is about delivering happiness. One pair of shoe at a time. Right? Delivering happiness. Think about it. Something so shallow can give you happiness. Yeah, I'm very happy with my shoes. Yeah. So hey, how do they do that? They do that with 10 core values. And look at their 10 core values. Right? Diversity is not mentioned at all in their 10 core values, but boy, do they practice diversity. If you look very hard, and I did, I looked very, very hard, you will get this statement. We embrace diversity in thought, opinions, and backgrounds. The more widespread and diverse your relationships are, the bigger the positive impact, and the more valuable you will be to the company. So A, as I said, you don't have to say diversity, right, to be diverse. And this is Zappos, and the experience of being part of Zappos.
Zappos.com, where Elvis was once spotted in our warehouse looking for a pair of blue suede shoes.
This is Zappos.com, and what Amazon did for books, Zappos is doing for shoes. They're trying to revolutionize how business is done and how people work. The name is an adaptation of the Spanish word for shoe, and this year, 9 years after going into business, Zappos is on track to sell $1 billion worth of shoes.
You will have these shoes on Monday for your birthday.
And they're having a party doing it. One night, it was a toga party. Work hard, play hard. Tour the Zappos offices, and there's a cheerfulness you won't find in the dour offices of corporate America. Everybody thinks the government. Every department has its own way of greeting visitors. Zappos is headquartered in Las Vegas, where they do have office carols like almost any other corporation. But right there in the middle, we may have missed him. There he is, Tony Hsieh, Emperor of Shoes, with no more office space than Dilbert.
One of the things that's really important for us, actually probably the most important focus for Zappos is to make sure we have the absolute best company culture. And part of our culture is just having a family-like atmosphere.
And at times it looks like one of those internet startups that disappeared when the bubble burst. Here's the entire finance department racing Pinewood derby cars in the office. But unlike those failed startups, last year Zappos made a 5% profit. Not bad.
We just want to do about the very best customer service and the very best customer experience.
How can I help you today?
95% of Zappos' business comes over the internet, but they spend a lot of time and money training people to talk to customers on the phone. There's a 4-week training course that every single employee, from the executives on down, are required to take, even if their jobs don't usually require talking with customers.
Well, we have to help you out. That's a good order. Oh, we don't have Okay, no problem. Do a phone number that would be on our account?
Sarah Levine already works in the design department, but she was a member of the latest call center class. And just before they were hired, she and the rest were offered cash to walk away.
What did you see that was diverse about the culture? What did you see that was so diverse about this video? Anybody? Have you all gone to sleep? Are you all waiting for lunch? Who's very hungry? Oh, good. Okay. You're very... Mm-hmm. Yeah. But did you see also the training? Everybody needs to train to be a operator, even if you're... So that's diversity in action, right? Because if my core business is in selling shoes online, I have to make sure that everybody understands from procurement to finance what it takes to sell a shoe. So that when someone says, I want to upgrade this much money to upgrade my phone system, there's going to be no quibbles. How many times, who's been in big multinational corporations with many, many departments, right? How many times have you had arguments with another department and you just wish they understood what the hell you were doing so that they wouldn't keep putting roadblocks, right? Diversity in training. Right? Do you just train them for what they're hired for, or do you train them to understand the business? Right? So look at the power of this type of culture. 30,000 applicants for 450 positions, and they're paid money to quit. Huh? If you think, they say, Tony says, if you think this is not right for you, and you've just gone through training, I'll pay you $2,000 to quit. 1.5% make it through. Zappos gives you money to quit. And guess what? They don't pay top salary. SAS doesn't pay top salary. Zappos isn't paying top salary. So what, again, am I saying? Engage here. Give everyone a sense of purpose through connection and inclusion, and you will get great brand delivery. Right. So now I'm going to get you to write up your own culture, right? And how you're going to put diversity into that culture. Okay. Now I was thinking of setting you up into groups, but actually no. I'm going to get everybody. Have you got pieces of paper, right? Can we get some pieces of paper? And I want everyone to look at the Coca-Cola diversity statement. Also, some of the thoughts that you've garnered from the videos. And if you were to actually draw, I'm going to ask you to draw a diversity or a culture planet for your organization. Now, what is a culture planet? A culture planet starts off as a planet, right? What type of animals and people live in this planet, right? What type of cars do these people drive? Is it only a single car, hybrid car, or is it a multiple car? Are these people that live on this planet happy? What makes them happy? Why are they happy to come to work? Right? Imagine a future where your brand is already great. And what are the experiences, the user experiences that people have in this planet called, what's your company's name? Okay, so what's your company name? Camera? Camera La. Okay, so planet Camera La, right? And the planet, who lives in the planet? Your employees, your customers, your suppliers. I want all of them in there. And how are they feeling about your brand 10 years from now? So we're doing a projection exercise using what we've learned. And at which point are they experiencing diversity? Right? So doodle, draw, yeah? Put a name. Maybe it's brand X for now, right? Or it's brand, what's your name? Brand Mets, right? And start drawing it. You have 20 minutes, actually 10 minutes to do that, starting now.
Hello guys, I'm Eric. I'm from PictoChart. We are based in Penang. We do infographics. So what we do is to make our employees and also people happy, users. So what we do, we have weekly Wednesday lunch. Everybody have lunch in the office. It's paid by the company. So every week there will be a person in the office that given the role to organize lunch. So the person can just order anything they want. And we have lunch in the office. So after Wednesday lunch, we have a sharing session. So each employee will have a chance to share about what they love or what they are passionate about. So it's the sharing session that we take a few hours off from work just for the person to share what they love and spread the positivity. Okay, then we have everybody in the office learns and plays foosball. We have a foosball table, professional foosball table. So everybody, we encourage everyone to come together through a sport. Then we also have tournaments. So out of the tournaments, we give prizes for first place, second place, third placing. So we appreciate them for participating and giving their best. So we also have we have a thing we call the Cups Corner. So every employee has the individual cup. So weekly, every employee is given a chance to write a message anonymously and pop into the cup to show your appreciation and so recognition of each and every employee. So we have a bi-weekly fun. Every 2 weeks we have bowling session, hiking, visiting to events, doing charity work, and all this. We have fun Monday morning meetings. In the Monday morning meetings, everybody has a say in whatever is going on. And every team has to give feedback. So we also have a diverse working environment. People from Malaysia, Indonesia, UK, Italy, Poland, Bulgaria, India. And we have a very diverse customer delight team. We have people from Malaysia, people from Texas, people from Peru. So they speak many languages, Spanish, English, Malay, Chinese. We also have, we hold the webcam session in Penang. It's a webcam session where developers, growth hackers will come and share to the audience. It's free of charge. So this is a way we give back to the society. And it happens on every last Thursday of every month.
Okay,
Yeah.
so any questions?
Yeah.
What's the diversity here? I know he says there's many people from many countries, but beyond that, where is the evidence for diversity and inclusion? Sorry, who said that? The get-together lunch. What else? Sorry. Yeah. And I like the cup, yeah, the acknowledgement in the cup. And also Monday morning meetings. Everybody has a say in the meeting. That's inclusion and accepting diversity of thought, right? So this is what we mean by having a diversity culture, a culture that celebrates diversity, even though you don't put the word diversity in there. Thank you so much. Can we have another volunteer? Can we have another volunteer? Who was another one? You had some pictures. Would you like to come up and share? Because you learn when you share. Come. Can we give her, what's your name? Sorry? Julia. Okay, what company are you from?
I run a consulting company. So what happens is, okay, the other half is not relevant. I'm sorry. Okay, so these are some of the things that we currently do, but also some of the things that I would like to implement. So it goes current and future as well. We try to have a mix of ages, so to keep I'm not too concerned about the race, but we try to have young and the young at heart, so that you get both sides, or you get more inclusion in thought and helping clients as well. So a lot of some of us are parents, so we try to make sure that there's flexi time, there's things like scheduling for school runs, scheduling for doctor appointments. Some mothers may have, they can need to do their expressing thing in a separate room. So all these are, because we're small, it doesn't really matter. So everybody is quite open about things like that. We also say if you have other projects that you want to be working on and that if you're interested in, we try to implement something like the Google's 20% time, where, but be open and upfront about it. Hey, there's this thing I'm also working on.
Yeah. So Julia now is at how many people?
We're at 5.
5. So now everything happens organically because it's 5. So Julia's challenge really is to take the organic, write it down, and make it law.
Yeah, we just kind of it just kind of happens.
Yeah. So great brands don't just let things kind of happen. Great brands write it down. They write it down. They chart, just like pictogram. What is it that we're going to do, and we're going to make it law. And if the law doesn't work, then we change it to something else. But the end result, net, is to build happy employees who will go and get your business for you and build your brand into greatness. Thank you so much. Anybody else want to share? We'll have a last one. Any questions? Anyone still struggling with what I need to do to actually create a diverse culture or a culture that counts? No? Okay. Would you like to share? You're a B2B? You're not sharing. Okay. How about you, Mr. B? Would you like to share? No one wants to share. You guys are entrepreneurs. You're supposed to share. Diversity of thought. Okay, what's your name? Sorry. Jamie. Applause for Jamie.
So I don't have a company, so this is completely hypothetical.
That's okay.
But the hypothetical company is a company that's going to try to change the media landscape of Malaysia. Imagine a new reporting site, not like Malaysia Kini, that's a bit too political. But so the heart of the company is creatives, that we want content from people who are creative to build interesting things for Malaysians to see and have a new perspective on the way that they see the world and the way they see Malaysia. So one of the things very important is to continuously cultivate creativity, whether or not you are very creative or you're like me, who is much more operational. So one thing is to encourage the group or the team to watch TV consistently.
To watch TV?
Yes, because we are...
What a great job. Paid to watch TV.
Supposedly, a media company, right? Which means that you have a TV, but that doesn't mean the TV is just there. You have to, we'll schedule team sessions where we pick a documentary, pick an interesting piece of news, and then watch it and see how different people analyze it. From my perspective, I'm operations. I'm gonna say, how was this cut? How much did it cost? Blah blah blah. Someone more creative is gonna say, I didn't like the way this was shot, or I like the way this story made me feel. So that way, I think would cultivate a sense of communication and togetherness within the team. The other one was more on how do you share ideas between different groups and different team members. And one of the important ways was just to have, during the team meetings, allowing each person to speak, but say that I give you 20 seconds, say what you need to say, and then we move on. And that keeps it, and it's the same for everybody, management, or whether you're a manager, the CEO, or just like a regular coder, you have 20 seconds to express yourself as fast as you can in the shortest amount of time, and then everyone can say their piece.
Right. So that's really good. So one of my comments as a coach, I would say that it's very good, and likewise the other brand, it's very good to give people the opportunity to say, but what happens to what they say? Does it go anywhere? Right? So one is allow, then is there an actionable action tied to it? What do you do? So if you have no action tied to it, it just becomes pointless talking. Oh, here comes another session, right? I'm just to share. So I just share lah. I don't care what I'm sharing, I just share lah. Right? But do you get no, that's a fab idea. Okay, maybe you need to think a bit more about that. Okay, we're going to pop that down. Next week when we come back, can you expand on that idea? So it always has to have something tangible, right? Too much intangible and too much ideas get nowhere, right? So the great thing between great brands is workable, actionable ideas, right? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so anybody has any questions about how to turn your brand using diversity into something great? Sorry. So in closing, what is the key ingredient for diversity to work? So I want you to read this, and actually, if you don't listen to your people, you're not going to get an inclusive culture, right? This is the person who managed to turn this company called DeWalt around by listening to people, by listening to his customers. It was a B2B company, and in a world where every B&B company is saying, I don't have enough money to advertise, you know what he did? He went out there and went to the construction site and spoke to his customers. Therefore, shortcutting the procurement people who are not answering his calls. If you run into a block, and if you haven't put things like entrepreneurial drive, entrepreneurship in your behavioral statements, you're going to get people who will just keep doing this, and then every meeting, every week, they'll go, nobody's answering my calls lah. You're just going to get, I made 2,000 calls and I got maybe one door open, but it's still not a sale. Right? So what you need to do is, in your hiring process, check for entrepreneurial spirit. Give them questions that will say, if you did this and you had a roadblock, what would you do? Right? So one of the things is, as a leader, yes, when you've got them in your company, practice the behavioral competencies. But what happens when you hire? You ask the same questions. You challenge them at the point of interviews. And don't be afraid to give tasks during interviews. I always ask people to critique on brands, and I only give the jobs to those who actually I feel have the capacity to think beyond just, I like this brand, it's okay. Right? So you must understand who you are, what your brand is all about, what is your why? Why do you exist? Mercedes-Benz exists. Their why is creating art. Do you think they're going to hire people who cannot appreciate art? No. So if you don't know who you are, it's very hard to build your brand. So diversity is great, but know who you are and what your brand stands for. Thank you very much. I'm going to be roaming, so I know some of you are shy. If you want to come and talk to me on a one-to-one, feel free. I'll be here until about 1:30, right? Thank you.